Be on the lookout. Be on the lookout for an invite to a Zoom meeting to be held in November on the Hingham Master Plan. The master plan is it going to keep saying it's recording? All right. So the master plan is near completion, and we will have someone who's been involved in that speak with us. And then in early December, we'll have a league meeting to discuss 3 of our league initiatives. And those are the Observer Corps, a study around the number of members we have on our select board, and third, a project to celebrate, document, and to some extent promote what the league has been doing over the past many years. And these are 3 important initiatives that the steering and advisory committees are proposing for the league to take action on. And whether we do or don't do these is going to depend on the wider support of the league. So please plan on attending this meeting so that we can fulfill our goals for providing members with the opportunity to learn, to educate others about government, and take action on public policy. As you know, the League of Women Voters is proud to be nonpartisan, neither supporting nor opposing candidates or political parties at any level of government, but always working on vital issues of concern to members and the public. Tonight's program is very much in line with the League's priorities. We're very fortunate to have as speakers tonight Liz Klein and Russell Tierney. I'm going to introduce both of them, and then they will give their presentations. And we're going to hold questions for the end of the presentation. So first, to introduce Liz. Liz Klein's career began as a financial services consultant at Accenture. During her tenure there, she worked on process improvement projects for many Fortune 500 clients. Liz then continued her career at startup companies in Silicon Valley, focused on technology and education. Driven by her passion for education, she worked with clients to gather requirements, design, develop, and deploy custom learning solutions. A trusted advisor and strong project leader, Liz managed the client relationship throughout the project lifecycle, as well as international development and deployment teams. For over a decade, Liz has continued to work with clients as managing partner at Klein McKendrick Consulting. Since moving to Hingham in 2005, Liz has been an active participant and leader in the community. Her town experience includes executive director of the Hingham Downtown Association. She served on the Hingham Master Plan Committee. She served the Hingham's Women's Club as president and treasurer, fundraising chair of South School PTO. She was on the Hingham Newcomers Club board and communications director for Hingham Education Foundation. In May 2021, Liz was elected to Hingham's Select Board, and she currently serves on the Board of Water Commissioners, as well as the Select Board liaison to the Weir River water system. When Liz is not in meetings, she enjoys spending time with her husband and her 2 children, preferably at the beach. And next, Russell Tierney. Russell's a proven executive in the water and wastewater industry with over 29 years of comprehensive experience in the contract operation and maintenance of water, wastewater, and drainage systems. Employed for 28 years at one of the largest water and wastewater operations companies based in Massachusetts, serving all of New England, he was responsible for managing contracts with an annual revenue of $12.5 million and working collaboratively with 45 direct reports, successfully meeting contractual obligations. He has a BSCE from Northeastern University with a minor in environmental studies. Russell is a member of the American Waterworks Association, New England Waterworks Association, and Mass Waterworks Association, and he serves on several boards with all 3 of these. He volunteers his time as an instructor covering all water and wastewater system topics. In his spare time, he volunteers and coaches several youth sports teams and is the head coach of the girls varsity lacrosse team at St. John Paul II High School in Hyannis. Liz and Russell, thank you so much for being with us tonight, and I'll now turn it over to you.
Oh, thank you. I'm going to share the presentation with everybody. Hopefully I'll get it right. But hold on one sec. They won't give me this share screen. Hold on. Because I fibbed, I had it and now it just disappeared. Hold on, give me 1 second.
Okay, no worries, no worries. Thank
I
you,
got
Kathy,
it.
for the kind introduction. And thank you for working with Russ and myself to organize this. And thank you to the league for having us and your interest in the Weir River water system and everything you do for the community. We certainly appreciate it. So tonight while Russ is getting through this, I'll just kind of go through our game plan. We're going to start with a brief history. And then, kind of overall accomplishments where we are today. And then I'll let Russ take it from there in terms of the more technical details. And as Kathy mentioned, we'll take questions at the end. So you can raise your hand and ask a question or put a question in the chat if something comes up while we're presenting. All right. I can't move the slides, Russ, but sure. Great.
I got you, boss.
All right. Thank you. So just a brief history from 1879 to present day. These are the highlights. In 1879, the water system was founded by Hingham citizens, and a founding statute gave the town the right to purchase at any time, given a 2/3 vote at town meeting. So kind of from there, the water system changed hands several times. Obviously lots of time passed. And then in 2011, there were some major water main breaks, which really were the impetus for the Board of Selectmen at the time looking at capital investment, the status of the equipment, as well as the possibility of the town taking over the water system. So really looking at if that was even feasible. So in 2012, town meeting authorizes funding for town ownership feasibility study. So we went through various steps to really study what that would look like if that was a good decision for the town from an operational perspective as well as financial. Obviously, it was a huge undertaking. So many people were involved in that process. Over nearly a decade. I know Mary Power is on. She was critical to that process. And I'd be remiss not to mention, I believe John Asher is on as well. The select board appointed him as a temporary historian. So if you haven't seen his report, I certainly encourage you to do that. I'll put the link in the chat when we're done. But it goes through the entire history, really captures everything that happened, which is so vital for our town to have that piece of history to be able to just capture what has happened before anyone forgets. I'm sure the people involved thought they might never forget. It was certainly a labor of love and lots of work, but a lot of really important activities happened from the town meeting vote to authorize the purchase, which was overwhelming, yes. The transition and evaluation committee being appointed, and then through 2019 to 2021, the next phases, kind of ongoing operations, capital investment, the actual asset purchase agreement, which obviously was a big process where we wanted to ensure that our AAA bond rating would still be affirmed, which it was. And then between 2019 and 2021, the actual operations. So the name, the logo, the water system operator, hiring a superintendent, creating a customer advisory board, as well as policies and customer billing. The customer advisory board is still intact. They meet quarterly, and those are meetings that you certainly can attend if you have any feedback or questions. And then in August 1st, 2020, the daily operations transferred from Aquarian to Weir River Water System. April 1st, 2021, the customer billing transferred from Aquarian to Weir River Water System. So in August 2021 was the 1-year anniversary, which was, we celebrated all those accomplishments and all of the hard work that had been done in September, early September, the 9th. which was a nice event for people to come together and share their experiences and really celebrate all of the work that had been done over really the last decade. This slide just shows the overall accomplishments, the things that have happened in the first year of operations. So certainly things that we're very proud of. The Weir River water system operated within budget while achieving all projected goals and objectives, both financially and operationally. So obviously it was very important that all of the commitments made to the citizens during the evaluation period that we were able to fulfill those. And as promised, there was no rate increase during the first year of operation. Another major goal of owning our own water system was to invest in the capital and maintenance and repairs. So over $2 million has been expended on capital improvements and system maintenance and repairs so far. And Russ will go into some more detail about what actually has been done. But you can see here, storage tank inspections, interior cleaning, 2,850 linear feet of new water mains, on and on in terms of the capital investment. Also working with Suez, transitioning all of the existing field and treatment plant staff over to Suez, which really allowed us to retain institutional knowledge of the water system and keep those employees intact. The new billing and customer service system, adding new fire hydrants, developing new water mains for the capital improvement program in both Hingham and Hull. We're currently working on a cost of service study and capital plan, which were two goals of the transition and evaluation committee. So those are ongoing and near completion. Next, the transition and evaluation committee will evaluate and provide recommendations for the governing structure of Weir River water system. So initially it was set up that after at least 12 months, that sort of evaluation of what the right governance structure should be would take place. We're also working on a site for a new water storage tank. And I've been working closely with town departments, including fire, police, and DPW and sewer, to improve overall communications and planning. So that obviously is another big goal / accomplishment of the town being in control of the water system, is that we can be much more efficient in terms of working with those municipal departments and coordinate street paving, for example, with the water main work. Okay, I think, all right, so I will turn it over to Russ to go over an overview and some of the more technical details. And again, we'll take questions at the end.
Thank you, Liz. Appreciate the time to give a presentation to everybody. I think it's important to review these things and so everybody has an idea of what actually goes on with the system and what it actually entails. I can tell you that a quick story that my first day here was exactly what I expected. I can probably see Mary chuckling in the background. I was unloading my all my supplies and my stuff in my office and got a call for a water main break on Main Street. And it was the biggest break I've seen in a while. So that was my very first day. And as I left for the day, I got a call from someone. They said, "How was your first day?" I said, "Exactly what I thought it would be." It is what it is. That's the way we work. So the staff did a great job. And I realized right on that day that the staff we brought over from Aquarian was going to be a great fit for us as a town and as a water system, because they worked very hard that day to get that taken care of in very minimal time. So it was very good. The Hingham Water Company was incorporated in 1879. I know Liz already said that, but was renamed the Weir River Water System on August 1st, 2020. That's a mistake on my part. The Weir River Water System is operated and maintained under a 5-year contract with Suez Environmental Services out of Wilmington, Delaware. And there's an additional 5-year option that is the sole discretion of the Weir River Water System to renew. Services over 14,000 customers in Hingham, Hull, and North Cohasset. The distribution system is rated at 3D under the Mass DEP rules and regulations. The water distribution system includes booster stations in Hull and Hingham, 2 storage tanks located at Accord Pond and Turkey Hill. The average age of the water mains is 64.4 years, and the system is divided into 2 pressure zones. There's over 190 miles of water main, 12,500 water meters, 400 seasonal meters, 480 fire services, 3,000 gate valves in the system, and over 1,200 public and private fire hydrants. So it's a very big system. It's a big undertaking, but again, the staff that we brought over is doing an outstanding job keeping up with all this work. The source of the water system's water supply are surface water supplies at Akron Pond, Akron Brook, and Fulling Mill collective basins, and 11 active groundwater wells at Free Street, Fulling Mill, Scotland Street, and Prospect Street. I know I heard earlier someone talking about the tour. The tour went very well, and a lot of people were very shocked to see all the basins up behind Fulling Mill, and they're all full of water, which is a great sign. But they are up there, and a lot of people don't even know they're there. But they're a good source of our water supply. All water is pumped to the Mass DEP rated 4T treatment plant. So all the water we pump out of the ground and take from the surface water is delivered straight to the water treatment plant for treatment. Nothing in the system gets pumped directly into the system. It all travels underground to the plant, which is located at 900 Main Street in Hingham. The plant is fully automated using a supervisory control and data acquisition system, which is called SCADA. So the operators have screens on their desks and throughout the entire plant to monitor what is going on every minute of every day. It's fully alarmed, and it will alert them of any issues so they can address them immediately. The Hingham water system's authorized withdrawal limit is 1.2815 billion gallons per year, which represents a daily average of about 3.5 million gallons a day. In land ownership, the Weir water system owns about 225 acres in Hingham, 9 acres in Rockland, 16 acres in Norwell, and Hull. We have about 1 acre of land. The Norwell and Rockland is a lot of that is Akron Pond. So these are a little couple pictures of Akron Pond pump station. We pulled water directly from the pond. I just want to show you guys a few pictures of what that looks like. And please, if anyone wants to do any tour of any of these facilities, you can contact me directly by email, and we'll set something up to give you a tour of anything that you'd like to see in the water system. Currently, the water system is set up. This is the org chart. So myself as the managing director, right under me is from Suez is Mike Lee, who's the regional manager. He's in charge of both the Hingham and Hyannis contract operations for Suez. Beneath him is Darren Durth, who is located at the treatment plant at 900 Main Street. Darren is the project manager for the entire project. Following under Darren, he has 3 supervisors, 1 in distribution, 1 at the plant, and 1 administrative supervisor for customer service. Under those individuals are all the staff. In the treatment side, there are 5 operators plus a couple of maintenance people. On the distribution side, there are 5 operators, and customer service has 2 individuals besides Sarah, who is there every day on Lincoln Street. As far as Lincoln Street goes, it's a great little facility. It was a good pick by Suez. The access is pretty good. There's plenty of parking. If you get a chance to go see it, they did a nice job renovating it and making it, a very nice office. Currently, the office is open from 8 to 4 and from 8 to 7 on Tuesdays, just like Town Hall. We are considering cutting back on the Friday hours to give them a little bit of time to get caught up on some work. And that is in the process now. What can be done on the self-service telephone number? You can make a payment, you can schedule an appointment, you can check your account balance, you can last payment received, request copies of bills. There are a lot of things that can be done on the 877 number. One thing I will encourage people, which I encourage in every presentation we do for the Weir River water system, is to go on and get registered for the alert system. The alert system works very well when we have emergencies and when we have scheduled work. We are at the point now where we send emails off for scheduled work, and the only time we'll call you is when it's an emergency, like if we have an emergency water main break. So we have, being very cautious on how many calls people are receiving through the system. So emails are done a lot, especially for scheduled work. Liz mentioned capital improvements. Everybody promised that we would spend approximately $2.7 million a year in capital improvements. This does not include just general repairs and things like that. This is just purely capital work. So over the first 2 years, we will spend that $5.4 million. Currently, we have Beulah Road, Beulah Place, Forget-Me-Not Lane have all been completed in the first year. Atlantic Ave and Gunrock Ave are ongoing right now. They started on 10-1. Wampatuck Road and Downing Street, all brand new water mains. They were awarded, and they will either start later this during the winter or maybe first of the spring, maybe February or March, depending on the weather. The treatment plant, we rehabilitated both filters 3 and 4. They're completely rehabilitated. That was completed in September. We are going out to bid to rehab filters 1 and 2, and that'll be completed before the next, before the spring, before we get heavy usage again. And then the Ackwood Pond intake is had some issues. We did a really nice repair job on it last year. We may replace that in this fiscal year, but that depends on money. That's the last thing on our list for this year to replace with the capital money. And as you can see up top, we have pretty much distributed evenly between Hingham and Hull. I have been working with Cohasset. I have not forgotten Cohasset. We actually inspected every one of their fire hydrants, made sure they're all working. And we actually found a fire hydrant that no one knew was there in a bush in somebody's yard. So it actually, the guys did a great job finding that fire hydrant, clearing it out. So right now Cohasset has all their hydrants are back up and working. So these are a few little pictures of the capital work that we did for Beulah Road and Beulah Place. The contractor that did this work did a very nice job. Very little callbacks for the work that they did. So we were very pleased with their work. In the distribution system over the past year, we replaced and repaired 46 of 56 defective fire hydrants. One of the first things when I came on board, I sat down with the fire chiefs and asked them what their biggest issue was. And they said it was the number of fire hydrants that were out of service. So we made a very hard effort to get those fixed as soon as possible. It was really helped along by a grant that the Hull fire chief went out and got for the town of Hull, where he had enough money to replace 30 fire hydrants. We worked very closely with him, coordinating all the work, and we got it done. We got 46 out of the 56 completed. We replaced 17 gate valves or repaired them. We performed an extensive hydrant inspection program. We've come up with a list of additional hydrants to be replaced, which is not that many at this time. We performed a thorough gate valve inspection program, completed extensive flushing program in zones 2 and 3, which are the main service zone. We will be doing zone 1 in the next couple of weeks. We'll be starting that up, which is the high pressure zone on the north side. Well, I don't know what side of Hingham that is. Does anybody know what that is, north south? But it's the high pressure zone, and it's up by the corner about 228. So that's what we're going to do next. This is some of the numbers that really impressed me. The crews responded to 20 service leaks and 34 main breaks over the past year. This definitely points towards that we are in need of doing some infrastructure improvements, which we are working on right now. Performed a leak detection survey throughout the entire distribution system, replaced 500 aging meters in the system, received over 4,600 dig safe requests in the past 12 months, and received over 18,000 customer service calls over the first 12 months, and responded to over 6,000 customer requests for work orders. So again, very busy time. We do expect the calls to go down a little bit because a lot of that was related to the transition of the billing program and transition of customer service. So a few pictures of what the staff had endured. The top left picture is actually the main break on Main Street, which they fixed very quickly overnight. We were all out there at about 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'd never been on Main Street where I didn't have to dodge a car or two. And it worked out well. The crew did a great job and got it fixed very quickly. There is a picture of Mill Street. That was in the first few months we were here. And the crew fixed that maybe within 4 hours or 5 hours, and all the restaurants were able to open for the night time. So we really worked hard to get those restaurants back up and running. The bottom is on Whiting Street. A car hit a fire hydrant. I don't know if anyone remembers this, but everything was underwater. It took the staff about 20 minutes to find the valves, which is great time for how much water was there. And we replaced that hydrant. And then the bottom right corner is a little tool that we made up to help with people who have low flow or low pressure problems. We can actually test your pressure and flow to determine where the issue is on your water service. It was something that we made up to help with customer requests. The water treatment plant, supply update and improvements. Every well that we have, all 11, were completely rehabilitated over the past year. And what it did, it allowed us to rest Ackwood Pond. So last year, if everyone noticed, Ackwood Pond was the lowest they've seen it in a long, long time. When I first came on board, I thought that's how low it was and was told it wasn't. If we look at it today, you can see the difference. But what happened was the wells needed to be rehabilitated, and we had to increase the capacity of the wells back to where, try to get them as close to original as possible. We did that. We did every single well, even though the contract only called for 4 wells to be done. we all decided as a group that it was better to do all 11. This really helped us this year, along with all the rainfall, again, to keep Ackerd Pond raised, allow it to overflow, and allow it to continue to feed Ackerd Brook and all the other smaller tributaries throughout the town so that the ponds and rivers and streams didn't dry up. The method of managing and monitoring Ackerd Pond usage has been modified significantly. And again, these changes have led to a very positive impact on our water supply. Filters number 3 and 4 were completely rehabilitated. And again, filters 1 and 2 will be done coming up in the fall into the winter. We made significant upgrades to the water treatment plant, including complete upgrade to the SCADA system that allows our operators better control of the water system and the treatment of the water that comes into the building. We inspected and repaired the intake line at Ackerd Pond. The screen on the pond intake line had broken. It was not repaired. We found this, it started causing us a problem with some mud in the intake line. We hired a diving team who went down, found the problem, fixed it, and everything's back up and working properly. Extensively clean up and remove overgrowth in all remote locations, improve working conditions for the staff at Fulling Mill. Fulling Mill pump station, and again, anyone that would like to see some of these facilities, be more than welcome to come, is where our distribution crew is set and where all the stuff is for them to do their work. We have our hydrants there, our pipe, our valves, everything is stored at Fulling Mill. And when we first came on board, we did a complete tour of that and a complete report of it and found that the conditions weren't very safe for the crew. So we made some significant changes there to make sure everything was safe for the crew, and they could get their work done in a more efficient manner. We have met all water quality parameters as set forth by Mass DEP, including but not limited to PFAS, which I'll show you on the next slide because I know that's a big topic. It's one of the biggest emerging contaminants in the country, and THMs. Lead and copper, which is another, always in the newspaper if you keep your eye on things. And over the past month, we took over 60 locations and all samples passed as expected, and the system is in full compliance regards to lead and copper. The lead in the system is less than 15 parts per billion, which is the limit set by Mass DEP and the EPA, and copper in the system is less than 1.3 parts per million, which is again is the limit set. I can tell you that this is a very big accomplishment since we did change the treatment system a little bit for a few reasons. One was to save some money on chemicals, and the other was to get a more consistent pH throughout the entire water system. The changes worked great, and it's evident by the fact that we passed lead and copper without a problem. So this was a very big accomplishment by the treatment staff and Suez as a whole. I don't know if you can read this very well, but I can try and blow it up a little bit. So currently, our average PFAS in the system is a 7. If you look up a little bit on this 14, this was coming through the Cohasset interconnect. Shortly after that, I had a discussion with Cohasset. They were doing some individual well testing. They found a well that was at a 25. At that time, when they got the 25, they immediately called us and we immediately shut down the Cohasset interconnection until they had time to get their system shut down and get that well offline. As you can see, we did test Cohasset interconnection again, and we came up with a 2 and a 7. So that one well in Cohasset was causing them a lot of problems, and it has been fixed, and they are working on a treatment system for that well. But again, we worked very well with Cohasset. We worked in conjunction to make sure that that water did not get back into our system. So anyone that knows about PFAS or wants to learn about PFAS, there's a lot of information out there online right now, but the biggest thing you need to know is that the limit set by Mass DEP is 20. And that's 20 trillion, parts per trillion per liter. So that is a very small number for PFAS. It is 70 in other parts of the country, but Mass DEP has taken a proactive approach to PFAS and made it 20. So again, we are averaging about a 7. So we're well under that, and we are well under the monthly sampling trigger of 10. So currently we sample quarterly. And I'll be more than happy to answer questions about PFAS at the end if anyone has any questions. I will go back and say one thing. So our filter system, the 4 filters that we have at the water treatment plant have a carbon layer. Carbon is the primary source for removing PFAS components. One of the reasons why we are now rehabbing the filters is, although we were only a 7 coming into the plant, which is well under the limit, we want as close to 0 going out of the plant. So what we did was we had samples taken before the plant and after the plant and found that we were getting zero removal through our carbon, which tells us the carbon was at its end of its life. So we wanted to make sure we rebedded all the carbon to see if we can get removal of PFAS out of the water that's coming into the plant. Again, even though it's only a 7, we'd like it to be closer to 0 as we can. So by rehabbing the filters, we're hoping to get a little closer. I'm going to give it about a month before we sample at the plant, because you want to have time for that carbon to activate and become activated and work properly. These are just some pictures of some stuff that was done. This is the tank at Turkey Hill. On the left here is what they call the manway, which is an inspection part of the plant, of the tank. As you can see, the bolts are rotted and this cover is rotted. Now this is at the very bottom of the tank. So if this fails, the tank would literally empty. We brought in a company that we do a lot of work with. They're divers. They actually manufactured this cover, which is on the right, which was actually installed today. That's why I dropped it in here, Liz. That's why I didn't see this earlier. They installed this today. It will be painted to, look a little nicer, but this is gonna help us. If this fails, we will not have a catastrophic failure of the tank. The tank is scheduled for rehabilitation, but that has to happen once we site and build a new tank somewhere else in the town. So it's gonna have to be this way for a few more years. So we decided to put a safety component over it and make it a little better and make sure that we didn't have a catastrophic failure on the tank. To the right is the Fulling Mill pipe storage area. As you can see, where I was talking about safety for the operators. This is what it looked like about 3 weeks ago. This is what it looks like today. This is the filling. This is the pond number 1 up above Fulling Mill. This was about the 3rd week I was here. And as you can see, this pipes, this is all dry. This is completely dry. We found some issues with this pipe. Before the water coming out is after we fixed the problem. We went down and we fixed the problem with the valve that feeds this coming from Ackerd Brook down South Pleasant Street. Once we fixed that valve, water started coming in. This picture right here is what it looks like. It looked like on Saturday when we were doing our walk. You can't even see the pipe anymore. That's how much water we have in this pond. If you look at this picture, I thought this was a nice picture through the trees. It actually looks like we have a lake out there. And again, this is all due to part of the hard work of all the staff and everybody putting their heads together and finding out why we weren't getting water to the ponds up above Fulling Mill. This is the building at Fulling Mill that houses our cistern, which is one of our water supplies. This is how it was left in our hands. This is what it looks like today. And it actually is going to get another coat of paint over the weekend. This is more of a couple coats of primer. And again, we painted the ballers, everything just to make it look more presentable for everybody. This is how we found Squirrel Hill Pump Station, which is up off of Squirrel Hill Road. No, Squirrel Road. I can't remember the name. I'm sorry. But this is how we found it. And this bottom right picture is how it looks today. So this is the hard work everyone put in to clean up and make everything look better than it did. This is one of the most extensive things we did at the treatment plant. This middle picture shows you how much lime was on the floor. So lime is the chemical we use to increase pH. Lime is in a powder form. It's mixed in big vats at the plant. And the system that evacuates the lime from the air was not working well. We had it upgraded, which is this bottom picture right here on the bottom right, this black blower right here. The old one is on the left, which was half of what was needed to evacuate that room while people were mixing lime. This is what a tank looked like while we were there. This is what that tank up in the top here looks like today. So again, this is all work done by the staff and a few contractors to make sure that we get everything back up to the proper working order. This is a filter. This is filter number 3. When we evacuated all the media out of the filter, this top left corner is what we found in the condition it was in. The right picture is after we cleaned all this up. If you can see these little holes right here, these are tiles missing from the bottom. What that does is it allows carbon to leach out of the filter and get into our finished storage tank on the property. This bottom picture is what it looked like after it was rebedded, cleaned, steam cleaned, and all done by the contractor. So that's what it looks like now. So what does the future hold? Unaccounted for water has been a persistent issue within the system for several years, averaging over 20% of water produced, which means that 20% of the water we push out of the water treatment plant does not go through meters. It's either going into the ground, being taken by someone unauthorized, or other issues are causing this problem. What we will do is we'll continue to invest in capital funds annually to have improvements to the water system that will help reduce the unaccounted for water and investigate other causes of this problem. We'll invest in additional leak detection programs. Currently, we do leak detection once per year. The goal is to put money aside next year and do 2 a year so that we can find more leaks, get them repaired, and reduce the unaccounted for water. The expectation is to reduce unaccounted water to under 10%, and in turn reduce operational and maintenance costs. Invest in energy efficiency audits that will not only reduce electrical costs, but improve lighting throughout our facilities. Currently, we have an auditor coming in next week to go through the water treatment plant, find some energy efficiencies we can do in the plant. We will take note of those and we will get them taken care of. So we can reduce that. We are researching the use of natural gas instead of heating oil and diesel at the water treatment plant to reduce energy costs and use a cleaner fuel source. I'm happy to report that we're in the middle of reviewing a contract with National Grid. So hopefully by the end of the month, at least the heating system and other things in the plant, we run off natural gas. The only thing that may not is the generator at this time, but that'll be something we will continue to work for in the future. We'll continue the biannual flushing program to improve water quality throughout the system. Flushing your water mains removes the colored water that you sometimes see when we have a water main break. So it'll scrub the mains and remove that tuberculation and remove those impurities. This is a big program. It takes a lot of work, a lot of effort, but it's well worth it in the end to get the water quality better in the system. We'll work with our consultants to complete the cost of service study and ensure the water system and capital work we perform is sustainable for the future. And we'll invest at least $2.7 million a year into capital expenditures to improve system hydraulics, water quality, public safety, and other important infrastructure needs. And that's where we are. And I'm happy to answer any questions. So's Liz. Liz is too.
Yes.
Thank you so much. If anybody has questions, please raise your hand and we'll call on you. Any questions? Well, I have a question. So Russell, what are some of the main things that we can do to help preserve and improve our water quality as residents?
Water quality is more on the distribution side and more of maintenance to the distribution system. But one thing that does really hurt our water quality is during the summertime when we're asking people to restrict water usage and they don't. And what happens is you overtax the distribution system. And at times you can actually try to take more water than we can push out of the plant. And what'll happen is we'll have reverses in flow, we'll have changes in direction. And what'll happen is it'll take some of that stuff off the mains and cause dirty water. So the biggest thing is if residents, when we ask to cut down on water usage a little bit here and there to help not only conserve water, but also it'll help not have those issues in the system when it comes to water quality. The other thing you can do is be very cautious on how much you fertilize your lawns and things like that near our well fields. Our well fields are very well marked out. They have on the gates, they'll tell you it's a drinking water supply area. It just helps us to keep the water quality up. But having a 4T water treatment plant is a big help because it's the best treatment and most extensive treatment of water that you can do. That's why it's a 4T.
Right, great. I think Bill Reardon has his hand up.
So I'm unmuted. Can I be heard?
Yes, you can.
Okay, so Russ, a couple of informational questions just to clarify. As I think I understand it, you are the only employee of the town. All of the other employees are with Suez. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Second, you mentioned that the rating for our water is 3D. I don't know what that means. Maybe you could clarify that. And the last question, you say that we are working on a cost of service study. Having worked in the utility industry myself a bit, usually that is a predecessor to preparing for a rate case. Is that contemplated and in what sort of span of time?
I'll answer the quickest one back is the 3D. So our treatment system is a 4T, which Mass DEP takes what you're doing for treatment, what you have for water quality, and it does a calculation to rate your plant. That's why the plant's a 4T. The 3D is the distribution system. That's based solely on the number of miles of water main and how many customers you serve. That's basically what it's predicated on. So a 3D is a pretty large system, and we're pretty close probably to be almost being a 4D, but as of right now, we're just a 3D.
So it's not a measure of efficacy, it's simply size.
It's size, yes, and how many customers you have, correct.
Thank you.
No problem. To answer your other question about the rate stuff, so the rate case, the cost of service study is not the same as if we were a private entity like it was here before. We don't go through a rate case. Our rates are discussed with the Systems Advisory Board, sometimes the T&E Committee, the Board of Water Commissioners. We have a step-by-step process that's outlined in our regulations on how we're going to look at rates. What the cost of service study is doing, which was absolutely needed in this town, was how do we continue to service the customers of Hingham, Hull, and North Cohasset? How do we make improvements to the infrastructure with the money that we have coming in with the current rates? So the cost of service study is going to tell us to make sure that we are prepared for the next 10 years. The T&E committee and everyone else that was involved in the purchase of the water system and all this stuff that was put into it beforehand did an outstanding job with a 10-year plan. We have a 10-year plan. What this cost of service study is doing is validating the 10-year plan that everybody came up with, and just making sure that it's going to be for the future to make sure that we can get everything done we want to get done in the future.
Thank you.
Jennifer, need to ask your question?
Sure, thank you very much. When I was on Conservation Commission, when reviewing projects that came before us, one of our questions always, well, typically was, especially if a bigger project was in front of us, have you consulted with Aquarian about the amount of water that's going to be required for your project? And the answer was always yes, and the answer was always, we have enough water. However, not necessarily this year, but last year, it was apparent that not quite sure that's accurate. And I'm just wondering, going forward, now that we own our water, what is the town, this question may be more for Liz, how are we going to coordinate with, builders and planners and the town to make sure that we are not over committing ourselves in terms of water use, so we don't end up in a deprivation scenario?
A good question, and I apologize, Jennifer, because you cut out a little bit, but I think you asked how will we coordinate with builders and planners to preserve water or make sure we have
That's
enough water.
correct.
Is that right?
Yes, not
So I
only
think-
today, but going forward, for years and years to come.
Yes, and that's certainly a concern, looking at water and wastewater. As I'm sure you know, that is something that the town is looking at, as well as the South Shore Chamber just did a study on that and looking at the whole South Shore and how that would be impacted. So we know that if there will be significant development, that is a consideration, and some sort of wastewater treatment would have to be a part of that plan. So I think that is one of the advantages of us having control of the water system, is that we can more closely monitor that coordination with the planning department and builders that we're partnering with. That's a great question.
Mary?
Hi, I just a comment and then a question, I think, for Liz. I just want to acknowledge that so many of these accomplishments that you've just seen are so much the result of Russ Tierney and the wonderful job that he's been doing for the town for the past year. I had the privilege of sitting on the board when the superintendent was hired. I wasn't part of the process, but what I heard after the interviews were conducted were, we had a lot of really good candidates, but there was one person that was just head and shoulders above everybody else. And that obviously was Russ. And, you know, I think it's to the town's credit that many of the commitments made in the lead up to the acquisition were accomplished. But I do want to recognize that I don't think many of them would have been possible without Russ's leadership. And, you know, as now a customer of the Weir water system, it's just, it's gratifying to me to know that we have somebody like Russ at the helm, and I know others feel that way. So I just wanted to publicly thank and acknowledge Russ's efforts. My question, and Liz, I think this is maybe for you. You know, you, I think, mentioned at the beginning that the Transition and Evaluation Committee is in the process of looking at the long-term governance structure of the water system. Right now, you're a water commissioner, but I just wondered if you could perhaps, you know, just sort of talk to the league about what that undertaking is going to consist of and sort of what the timing is, because I think, you know, in a lot of ways, that's some of the stuff that we're very interested in as a league. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Mary. So currently the Transition and Evaluation Committee are working on the cost of service study that we mentioned, as well as the capital asset study. Those should be done, I believe, by the end of the year. Correct me if I'm wrong, Russ.
Yep.
And then the next step for the Transition and Evaluation Committee is to really evaluate the governance and operational structure. So that will be a process, which some of that I know is outlined in the historical document, but essentially they will set criteria for which to judge a governing structure that will be presented to the select board. And then they will go back and look at different options, different structures, and evaluate the pros and cons of each, and then make a recommendation to the select board. So that will be an iterative process, looking at what the options are and then what the pros and cons are of each situation. So I'm sure there'll be more information on that in the coming months. And people can certainly, you know, voice their opinions and provide feedback. But that will be a process where the T&E committee is presenting to the select board.
Nancy Bettinger.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. That was a great presentation. I think earlier in your presentation, Russ, you mentioned that all of the water from all of the wells in town are going through the treatment system, through the Hingham treatment system. But I just wanted to clarify that that doesn't include the water coming from Cohasset, right? That's just going into the tank and being distributed.
No, you're correct. You're correct. Yes.
Thank you.
Nancy McDonald.
First of all, I want to say, Russ, thank you. That was quite an impressive presentation and an impressive amount of work that's been accomplished in the first year or so with COVID. I can't remember whether it was a year or 2 years, but everything at times compressed for me. But I did have a question on, so you talked about, when you talked about water quality, that there's the water as it's leaving the plant, and then there's the water as it's entering our homes. How do we know as homeowners what's happening in between those two places, and what's eventually showing up at my doorstep?
Because we sample within the distribution system also. So although we do extensive sampling in the plant, because it's all process sampling within the plant actually has its own laboratory. So the plant does iron and manganese and all kinds of sampling throughout the day. The operators do it all day long. The distribution system is where the PFAS samples are being taken. It is where the lead and copper samples are being taken. It is where the bacteria samples are being taken. Those are all taken out in the distribution system, spread out throughout the entire system. So any sampling that we take in the system is a representative of the entire distribution system.
Oh, okay. Thank you for clarifying that. I misunderstood. I
No, that's okay. That's okay.
thought there was
I
differentiation. I
was
appreciate that.
making a point about the plan on how we figured out that those filters need to be rehabilitated. That's when we took the samples pre and post filter, just to see how that was doing. But all the water quality samples that we take under Mass DEP directive are taken out in the distribution system.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Celia?
Yes, I'd like to thank both of you also. Add to the chorus. That was a very impressive presentation, and you've done an amazing amount of work. So thank you for informing us of that. So I am a Hull resident, and my ears perked up, Russell, when you were talking about the fire hydrants in Hull, because we have had incidents where houses have burned down. In one case, a dog was in the house because the fire department was not able to use the fire hydrant. Things were stuck. So I was wondering, the improvements and repairs you were talking about, is that because of problems with the pipes, or is it really checking all the hydrants in town? Because we had heard that it wouldn't be practicable to really test all of them frequently.
Test all of them every year. So it's part of the contract with Suez. They take it very seriously. They actually missed about 50 last year, which was okay because we did a lot of work last year, but they immediately went to those other 50 the very first of the start of the second contract year. So every hydrant in this town has been checked and looked at by our staff. But it is in the annual, every year they have to check every fire hydrant. So if people say it's an impossible task, it isn't. It's what we do, and it's what we're going to continue to do going forward. It's the most important thing with public safety is the fire hydrants. So
Thank you. That certainly puts my mind at ease, and I'll let other Hull residents know too.
absolutely.
Are there any other questions?
This is John Asher. I'm not sure how to raise my hand, but I have a comment and a question if I'm not interfering with somebody else.
No, please go right ahead.
Sure. First of all, I want to say, Russ, I want to echo what Mary Power said. Congratulations to you and your team, because since I have some familiarity with the RFP that was originally fashioned, and I look at the list of accomplishments that you've put on the board in really just about a year, that's impressive, and good job. Question regarding the third tank. Is there any idea, do you have any idea of timing in terms of when the might be sited and actually constructed?
Yeah, sited, we should have by the end of the year. Then we'll immediately start design, which might take 6 to 8 months. And then hopefully start construction in FY23 or late FY23.
Okay.
It depends on a lot of things, John. And one of the things is right now, as everyone knows, the supply chain is very hampered. And then what kind of tank do we want to put up there? So our consultant has been throwing tanks at me for about 2 weeks, concrete, steel, fiberglass, all kinds of tanks. And we're kind of looking at what's the most economical and the best for the towns to have and actually the siting. Everyone keeps asking me where it's going. I don't want to discuss that because that has to come down to the final decision by our consultants and the best place for it to go.
Sure.
So I don't want to speculate on where it's going to go, but it will be in the best position for the system as a whole. No matter where it is, it's going to be the best place for everybody in the system. So
Great, good, thank you.
no problem, John.
Bill Reardon?
Yes, this is more again by way of comment. I didn't know what your time frame was and how close we were to the end of opportunity to say anything, but 2 observations. One, I want to thank the league for doing this. It's just, really valuable. As I said, I wasn't able to go on the walk, but my wife did. So I get that information from her. Now is in conjunction with the Hingham Land Conservation Trust, which obviously was a big part of wanting to do this as well. But the biggest thing that I'm taking away as a 40+ year, no more than that, probably 60+ year resident of the town is the difference in transparency. this kind of a meeting and these sort of open responses, responsibility is just exactly why, we as a town undertook this, and hats off to Mary and John and all the people who were part of that. But that's the big difference, and it is incredibly welcome. So thank you for this kind of transparency.
Thank you.
Hey, if you want to go on that walk, just let me know. We'll take you on it. No problem at all.
Thanks, Russ.
I might have to build a handrail though for that one hill. I think we were talking about that on Saturday. Might have to do like a Tuckerman's Ravine kind of thing and put a handrail up there, but we'll look at that.
Nancy?
Yes, I'll second the comment on transparency, but I wanted to ask about the tank that you showed earlier. Is that being replaced by the new tanks?
No, that tank will be completely completely rehabilitated once we put the new tank online.
Okay.
Once we did the tank online, that tank will come out of service. We'll clean it, we'll paint it, we'll fix any issues with it and put it right back in service.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions from anyone? It's really been a great discussion. Yes, and I saw someone put in the chat that we should have a League of Women Voters field trip to look at all the Weir River water systems. That would be great. We'll have to get that on Russ's schedule.
Let us know.
It's a great idea.
It's not on Sundays. Until football season's over. Right, Mary? No Sunday walks.
All right, well, it looks like that is all of our questions. So I really want to thank everyone for turning in tonight, and especially to Liz and Russ for all your time and expertise sharing this with us. This program has been recorded, so it will be available on the League of Women Voters website, which is www.lwvhingham.org. So thanks everyone again, and good night.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job, Kathy
Oh, thank you.
and Celia. Very good, very informative. I look
Yeah.
forward to sharing this with other people too.
I thought it turned out well.
It's very, very informative. Thank you.
I know, and look at the time, you wrapped it up in exactly an hour. Amazing.
I'm glad to see Hull here too, Celia, because I'm glad that you're going to be able to tell people about the water issues there that have been corrected.